Rain dripped from the edge of the cafe's awning, tracing blurred lines on the glass window where a man sat motionless, staring into his untouched cup of coffee. Outside, the world hurried past, umbrellas open, shoes splashed through puddles, laughter echoed faintly, but inside, time stood still around him. His name was Ethan Cole, the youngest self-made millionaire CEO in the city, the man once celebrated on magazine covers for his brilliance and success. Yet, at that moment, under the dim golden light of a lonely cafe corner, he looked nothing like the man people imagined. His eyes, once sharp with ambition, were now hollow and tired, and his tailored suit felt like armor that had lost its purpose. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change a life, then take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Because this story might just remind you that even the coldest hearts can be warmed by a single act of innocence. Ethan had built an empire from nothing. He'd slept in his car once, worked through nights, eaten instant noodles for years, and fought his way into a world that had shut him out. People called him ruthless. Maybe he was. Success, he believed, demanded sacrifice, and he'd sacrificed everything: friends, love, peace, and eventually himself. His parents had passed before seeing his achievements, and the one woman who had loved him left, whispering that she missed the old Ethan, the one who used to smile. But Ethan hadn't smiled in years. He didn't even remember what it felt like. He was known for closing million-dollar deals with icy calmness, but in that cafe, with rain tapping gently against the window, he felt utterly defeated. His company's profits were higher than ever, but he couldn't remember the last time he talked to anyone who didn't want something from him. Assistants, investors, journalists, all of them admired him, yet none of them knew him. The truth was, Ethan Cole was the loneliest successful man in the city. He had come to that cafe by accident, or maybe by fate. It was small, warm, and smelled of vanilla and roasted beans, a world apart from his sterile glass office on the 50th floor. He sat in the corner, hoping to disappear for a while to feel like an ordinary man. He thought maybe a quiet cup of coffee might fill the silence inside him, but the truth was, silence only made his loneliness louder. As he stared at the faint reflection of his face in the window, he wondered if success had been worth it. The power, the wealth, the recognition, all of it had cost him something he could never buy back. He reached for his cup, his hand trembling slightly, when suddenly a soft, tiny voice broke through his thoughts. "Are you okay, sir?" He looked up, startled. Standing in front of him was a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, holding a half-melted ice cream in one hand and a small pink backpack slung over her shoulder. Her eyes were wide, curious, and full of a kind of purity he hadn't seen in years. Ethan blinked, unsure if she was talking to him. No one ever asked if he was okay. The girl tilted her head, waiting. Her ice cream dripped onto her small shoes, but she didn't seem to care. "You look sad," she said softly. "My mommy says when people look sad, you should ask them if they're okay." Something inside Ethan cracked. It had been years since anyone asked him that question without a hidden motive. He didn't know how to answer. For a moment, he almost wanted to lie, to brush it off with a polite smile, but something in her eyes made him tell the truth. "I don't know," he said quietly. "Maybe I'm not." The little girl frowned. "Then you should eat ice cream," she said seriously. "It always makes me feel better." Ethan almost laughed. It was such a simple, innocent response, and yet it was the first genuine laugh that had escaped his lips in years. The girl smiled back, clearly pleased with herself. "I can share mine," she offered, holding out her melting cone. "It's chocolate." He hesitated, then gently shook his head. "Thank you, but it's yours. You should enjoy it." She thought for a second, then nodded and took a big lick, smearing chocolate on her nose. "You can have some if you change your mind," she said. Then she looked at the empty seat across from him. "Can I sit here? My mommy's inside getting her purse." Ethan nodded, and she climbed into the chair opposite him, swinging her legs, humming a little tune. For the first time in a long time, the air around Ethan didn't feel heavy. The girl started talking about her school, her dog named Pepper, and how she wanted to be a doctor for animals and maybe people too. Ethan listened, quietly smiling at her chatter. It felt strange, almost foreign to hear joy so unfiltered. After a while, a woman rushed over, her mother. She apologized quickly, explaining she had gone to pay the bill and hadn't realized her daughter had wandered off. Ethan assured her it was fine. The woman smiled politely, thanked him for watching her, and took her daughter's hand to leave. But before they walked away, the little girl turned and said, Don't be sad anymore, okay? You're nice, I can tell. Ethan watched them disappear into the rain. For a long time he sat there, staring at the door, his heart heavier yet lighter all at once. That tiny moment, a stranger's child offering comfort, felt like someone had opened a window in a long sealed room inside his chest. Over the next few days he couldn't stop thinking about her words. Don't be sad anymore. It echoed in his mind during meetings, late nights, and empty dinners. For the first time he began to question not his success, but his purpose. What was the point of all this? The cars, the penthouse, the applause, if he had no one to share it with? He realized he had built walls so high around himself that even happiness couldn't climb in. So one morning he did something unthinkable. He took a day off. No assistants, no calls, no deals. Just him. He went back to the same cafe. The barista, surprised to see a man like him twice in a week, smiled and asked if he wanted his usual. He nodded, but this time he noticed things. The laughter of friends, the aroma of pastries, the rainbows in the steam rising from the cups. For the first time in years, he felt present. Then, as fate would have it, the little girl came in again. Same pink backpack, same bright eyes. She spotted him and waved excitedly. Her mother followed, looking embarrassed but smiling. You again, the girl giggled, running up to him. You look less sad today. Ethan smiled, genuinely, deeply. Maybe it's because I remembered your advice. The girl beamed proudly as if she'd healed the world. Her mother introduced herself as Grace, a single parent working nearby. They talked for a while. Nothing deep, just life, simple and real. But for Ethan, it was everything. It reminded him what human connection felt like. Before they left, Grace mentioned that her daughter, Lily, often stopped by after school, and Ethan found himself coming back more often, sometimes to see them, sometimes just to sit in the same warmth. Weeks passed, and those cafe moments became Ethan's favorite part of his day. He and Lily talked about everything: school drawings, dreams, silly jokes. Grace, shy but kind, would often smile at their conversations. For the first time, Ethan felt something he hadn't in years: peace. But one day they didn't show up, then another, and another. He felt uneasy. He asked the barista, who said Grace had mentioned taking her daughter to the hospital for tests. Ethan's chest tightened. Without thinking, he found himself driving to the local hospital. He didn't know why. Maybe worry, maybe something deeper. When he arrived, he found Grace sitting alone in the waiting room, eyes red from crying. She was surprised to see him. Then she told him Lily had been diagnosed with leukemia. The word hit Ethan like a punch. For a long moment, he couldn't speak. This little girl, the one who'd given him light, was fighting darkness herself. He stayed. Every day after work, he visited Lily. He brought her books, toys, ice cream, always chocolate, her favorite. She'd still smile, even through pain, and tell him not to look sad. You promised, remember? She'd say, her voice soft but strong. Ethan found himself breaking in ways he didn't expect. For the first time, his wealth felt powerless. He used it, of course, the best doctors, private care, but money couldn't fix everything. What he could do, though, was be there, so he was. Day after day, he sat by her bed, told her stories, made her laugh, and in return she gave him something no one else ever had: hope. Months passed. Slowly, Lily began to recover. Her hair started growing back, her laughter returned, and the color came back to her cheeks. When she was finally discharged, Ethan threw a small celebration at the cafe. Balloons, cake, her favorite ice cream. Grace cried as she thanked him. Ethan only smiled and said, "No, thank you, both of you," because somewhere along the way, the lonely millionaire had learned what real wealth meant. Not in the balance sheets, but in hearts healed, smiles shared, and the simple kindness of a child who asked, "Are you okay, sir?" And sometimes life's most beautiful moments come from the people we least expect, the ones who remind us that even the coldest winters can end, and even the loneliest hearts can learn to feel again. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to help us spread kindness and second chances across the world. And before you go, leave a comment below. What do you think is true wealth? Money, or love? Because maybe, just maybe, this story isn't about a CEO or a cafe. It's about all of us, trying to find warmth in a world that sometimes forgets to ask, "Are you okay?"